Let's see if I can get Dania on here. Go live. We're connecting to Dania.
Hello, Leah.
Hello.
Oh, this is so cool. I've never done this before. Hey, friends.
Hi,
Everybody who's joining
friend.
in.
How are you today?
I'm good. I'm actually not so mad that it's kind of a hazy, almost rainy day here. It makes being indoors feel a little bit more rational, like it makes more sense.
Yeah, totally. No, I get
How
that.
are you doing?
I'm good. I'm good. Yeah, I had a good weekend and I'm happy to be here with you. I yeah, I just want to share. I've been like, so I feel like we have friend groups that kind of overlap, and like for so many lap, and like for so many years, for so long, so many people were like, "Oh yeah, you know Danya, da da da," and I'm like, "No, I don't know her." And then we've met through the freestylers, the street stylers. Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
so glad to be able to have this conversation and get to know a little bit more about you and your story, and 'cause yeah, you are yeah, and doing a lot of inspiring stuff, and so involved in a lot of the things that America Scores and Oakland Genesis stand for and want to promote, and we're just so happy to have you on board.
Well, thank you for including me and inviting me.
Absolutely. Um, let's just wait for a little bit as a couple more people join, and then we got some fun questions for you.
Okay, cool.
Um, but yeah, it is I guess I'm just gonna
Can I?
take a moment to share.
Oh,
You do.
sorry, I didn't catch the delay.
Go ahead.
I just wanted to know the connection between America Scores Bay Area and Oakland Genesis.
Great question. Great question. I'm glad you asked and I didn't just blurt it out. It's better that way. So, we America Scores Bay Area has been part of when were we founded? Maybe like 16, 17, something like that. This affiliate, America Scores, is actually a national organization, and Bay Area is a an affiliate, and we do after school soccer and poetry and service learning projects. Cody Pallon and Matt Fondy are founders of Oakland Genesis, and Cody and I are friends from a long time. And he has been essential in creating Oakland Genesis, which is at the forefront, at the beginning of providing free club soccer to Oakland youth. Um, this is something that Scores is really an after school, more recreational level, but there's a ton of super talented kids, in our program that really need a next level to really uh, shine, and Oakland Genesis is going to be providing that for
Right on. Thank you, Oakland Genesis.
yeah. So yeah, let's get into it. Seems like we got some some peeps, some folks on here. Hi to everyone that's joined. Thanks for joining us. So to start, we're gonna just do a quick, fun round of either or. I guess I should just be called or because you have to choose one. You can't be like cat or dog, like either. No,
Okay, perfect.
you got to choose. Okay, so you ready?
Yes,
Okay. Cat or dog?
cat.
Beyonce or Rihanna?
Oh, Rihanna.
Messi or Ronaldo?
Messi.
Kendrick or Drake?
Kendrick.
For a road trip, would you like music or podcast?
Music.
At the movies, candy or popcorn?
Popcorn.
Mornings or evenings?
Nighttime. Evenings.
Would you rather be a bird or a fish?
Ooh, bird.
Laundry or dishes?
Oh.
Yeah,
Laundry, I guess.
I guess. Warriors or Niners?
Warriors.
Stinson or Mount Tam?
Stinson, the beach.
The lake or the Oakland Rose Garden?
Hmm, the lake.
Midfield or striker?
Midfield.
Pizza or tacos?
Ooh, that's hard because we got great tacos and Zachary's Pizza. Tacos.
Um, YouTube or Netflix?
YouTube.
Me too. Marta or Mia?
Marta.
Zidane or Pirlo?
Zidane.
And last and ultimate, soup or salad?
Oh, it just depends on the weather. Soup. I'm gonna go
Good
with
choice.
soup.
Good
It's
choices.
a little bit more comforting.
Yes. I think more, yeah, it depends, but yeah. Thank you. That was fun.
Thank you for
Um,
those.
yeah, very important things that the people need to know.
Uh-huh.
Um, okay, let's get into some of these other great questions. Who is your favorite athlete from Oakland or from the East Bay? It could be someone that's, involved in professional sports or not.
All right. I would have to say as of recent, and I mean this like last 10 years, is Marshawn Lynch. Um, because of his alignment to being both dedicated to Oakland, dedicated to his professional career, and also completely unwavering um, in his politics and his ability to say so much by saying nothing at all. I think that's so powerful, and I think he's a genius. And I definitely take a lot of cues from having watched him both when we were athletes at Berkeley and now watching the way he moves through the world. Yeah, so Marshawn Lynch.
Shout out to Marshawn. Marshawn, where you at on this live? No, that's a great one. Do you have a favorite musical artist from Oakland or the East Bay?
Oh, well, I mean, I mostly tend to love all artists that come out of the Bay. But a group that I've been listening to on repeat recently because to me they reflect a time in my early childhood that was like comforting and cool is Souls of Mischief. Um, they're part of the High Road crew, uh, legendary Bay Area hip hop artists, wonderful community members, and creatives that have inspired me at every stage. So if you don't know about Souls of Mischief, get on YouTube and look them up.
93 Till.
Absolutely.
Um, if you could tell an out of towner one thing that they have to do in Oakland, what would it be?
One thing that you have to do in Oakland. Oof. You gotta eat tacos. I don't want to like say exactly where, but you gotta eat. Which I feel like everybody says about Oakland. It's kind of one of those things. So I'm trying to be clever with, oops, what would I really share?
Are you saying you don't want to say exactly where because you don't want to give up your spot or you don't want to.
No, I just don't. I just feel like there's so many tacos that are just so good, and I feel like Taco Sinaloa gets shouted out so much, but there's so many wonderful tacos.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but if I were to be more clever with what to do, ooh, this when you come to Oakland and they open the world back up again, go to the Oakland Public Library. On the second floor is the Oakland history section of the library. These are all books and resources that you cannot check out of the library. And there's a woman named Dorothy. And Dorothy is one
Mm,
of the culture keepers, legends of
mm.
Oakland, who there's just a wealth of information. So if you really want to know Oakland, on your way looping around the lake, stop by the second floor of the Oakland Public Library because that room will transport you back in time.
Oh, I haven't done that. I gotta go.
You're
That's the
gonna love it.
main branch for on 14th.
Yep, main branch. Just go up the stairs, second floor.
Awesome. Beautiful. What is something listeners wouldn't know about you? A hobby or interest, a
Hmm.
habit?
One thing you wouldn't know is that I work with leather and I make handmade moccasins, shoes, purses, things out of recycled leather. That's my
Amazing.
secret
How
hobby.
long have you been doing that?
Oh, like 15 years.
Oh, wow. How did you get into that?
Um, I just grew up around a lot of tools. My dad is a collector of a lot of bizarre things, and one of them was a box of leather tools. And so I started finding scraps of leather and just getting creative, and kind of tapping back into more indigenous ways of living that are both in my lineage and just in my interest. And started by making chanclas, moccasins, out of leather. And
Wow.
yeah, that's kind of how my journey with leather crafting began.
Love it.
Hey, shout out to Oakland Street Stylers.
What
That's my
up?
joined.
Awesome. It's good to see you. If y'all, by the way, if y'all have any questions for Danya, please ask them in the, I think you can see next to the comment section, there's a little thing that has a question mark. Go ahead and ask them there because if it in the comments they get buried with when other people like comment on what all the amazing things she's sharing with us. So please ask them there and then they stay there and I can ask them. What is your favorite restaurant in Oakland, and what is your favorite meal to get there?
Ooh, all right. I already mentioned it kind of. Um, Zachary's Pizza. I get a deep dish, thick crust, artichoke hearts, pineapples, black olives, and mushrooms. Yeah, it's
All the
delicious.
things. That's
All the
amazing.
things.
It's got the salt, got the sweet, got the oh, I
Mm-hmm.
love it. Um, who is your favorite soccer player of all time?
Ah,
Wow.
so, favorite soccer player of all time is mostly my favorite because of the influence that he had on my life from early childhood of just learning his history. It's his name is Edson Arantes do Nascimento. Most people know him as Pelé. So Pelé, the king of soccer, um, has been just one of my biggest influences in my little soccer life. Um, I remember, here's a random anecdote. In fifth grade, I put together a binder that I still have somewhere in the house,
Wow.
a binder with laminated pages printed from the internet of every Pele anecdote I could find.
Wow.
And I made this as a report to share out with my PE class at school. Mind you, this was not an assignment. No one asked me to do it. I just put together a binder on Pele because I thought everybody needed to know everything about him. And so and I still have that binder somewhere around the house.
What's a couple things that you think that our listeners should, or whatever, people that are here with us today should know about Pele?
Um, Sorry, I'm just getting my
And
charger.
this time, all good. And this time somebody asked, so.
Uh, what is something that we should know about? Oh, goodness. That's a great question. How do I reduce this to one thing? Um,
You can say a couple things. And yeah.
I guess, well, one thing that a lot of people don't know, this is kind of more random fact, is that he ended his career um, having come out of retirement. So he retired in Brazil with this like really, really beautiful, heartfelt letter, dedication to every person and every fan that ever supported him. And he came out of retirement uh, to play for the New York Cosmos and help try to kind of reignite the professional men's league in the United States. So that's kind of a cool anecdote about Pelé. His birth city was Tres Corazones, which is three hearts. Um, and there's actually a Netflix, I think it's on Netflix, kind of biography about Pelé. That's just like a really beautiful um, story where you can learn a little bit more of like personal things about his family and his parents and a lot of the sacrifices that his parents made so that he could pursue this make what would become Hi Nico amazing life. Um, and I think that soccer players around the world, one of the things that some of us have in common, whether it's not just our parents, but guardians or elders in our lives who make a lot of sacrifices to support our soccer experience, from carpooling to buying the latest cleats to all these things that, when I was a kid, I didn't fully realize just how much of a sacrifice and commitment to my obsession, my parents and elders, even my sisters who were 11 years older than me, spending weekends in Bakersfield and like Morgan Hill just so that I could experience and play this game. Um, so yeah, that's a little bit. And yeah, I think the video was called Eterno. Arjuna,
Yeah.
my freestyle partner, just reminded me um, the Pele video is Eterno.
I know what I'm watching tonight. I can't believe I haven't seen it. I'm ashamed to
Yeah.
say. Yeah, awesome. Um, let's see where we're at time wise. Yeah, we got these other icebreakers. These are fun. What animal do you think best describes who you are on the soccer field and why?
Which animal? Mm, I think the animal that I would like to identify with um, is the lynx, the cat in the cat family. Um, the lynx isn't necessarily the fastest cat, um, but it has a really, really keen perception for what's around. So that when it is ready to make its move, it's like extremely calculated, but makes these decisions in a split second. And so I kind of feel like my style is kind of borrowing from the family of the lynx, um, of kind of really strategic, quick thinking, even if I can't necessarily outrun my opponent. There's other kind of trickery that I can use to get my way.
I love it. I love that. Um, yeah, I think and I never did you play so you played a cow, just right?
I played at
Right?
Cal. Um,
And where else did you play?
I played for a team called Santos Football Club in Santos, Brazil, which is the club of Pelé. So Pelé's club was Santos, Robinho's club was Santos, Marta's club was Santos. And when I graduated from Berkeley um, in I'm sorry, my last semester at Berkeley, I did abroad. My season had ended. I went abroad to finish my undergrad studies in Brazil, and I got an opportunity to try out with Santos. And so I was at this interesting crossroads of do I just commit to the team and kind of put my studies on hold?
Mm,
Do I, how do I do this? And
mm-hmm.
before uh, the official season began in September of that year. This was like 2005. I made a really important decision to return home and finish my studies at Berkeley with the blessing from the team and the coaches that the day that I want to return, that the door was open for me. And and I never returned. Actually, I got super invested into my community work, into education, and then was able to years later try out and play for the Bay Area Breeze when the semi-pro team, because I was part of the graduating class of women who the Women's Professional League had just folded, and we didn't have the only option where my friends were going to Europe and Japan and South America. And I'm stubborn, and I didn't want to have to compromise so much just to chase this ball. Um, I really wanted to stay in the Bay Area. And so I then joined the Breeze. I played a season with the Breeze in their first year and had so much fun, made so many wonderful friendships, and it was really exciting. But it wasn't enough. It wasn't fulfilling enough for me to commit an entire life to playing soccer in this way. And I say this way because for anybody that doesn't know, any of the semi-pro teams or any of the people who are not a big name like Martha or Alex Morgan, many of these women have to hold multiple jobs while they're training 6, 7 hours a day. Sometimes stay at nanny, like be a nanny at someone's home. And can you even think of one semi-professional male athlete who has to be a nanny in order to play? And I just couldn't, it just didn't fit right. I was like, no, I'm not going to do this. And found many other ways to meaningfully keep soccer in my life while also honoring and celebrating the women who did make that crazy sacrifice to make us, to help build another professional team back. Because without those women who stuck through it and did it and nannied the babies and trained, we wouldn't have women's pro soccer.
Yep.
So that's kind of a little bit of my journey just in the pro world, from Santos back to Oakland to the Bay Area Breeze back to Oakland.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm glad that you shared that because I do think that yeah, there are very few women even now, and I think it's actually grown quite a bit within the last couple of years. Um, like the status of professional women's soccer. Um, Especially, I think it's most shocking here in the States where, right, there we have the best team in the world, the best women's players
Yeah.
in the world by far. And well, not by far, countries are catching up all over the place, but still here a lot of, and it's the highest level league I think here. Like the best players from England or Brazil or all over come to play in this league. But unless you're one of those top players, like yeah, you're living with another family, a host family that has been like, yeah, we have an extra bedroom, like you can stay with us because they're making that little
Yeah.
money, right? So to call that out and to bring that to attention, I think is really really important. So thank you. Um, So, and also, I just wanted to chime in on that too. I wanted to echo that sentiment of like the sacrifices that families had to make to for to follow dreams. Club soccer here in the States. I'm not sure what it's like other places, but it is like the amount of time and energy and money. Like I think my dad even might be on here right now. Thank you for driving me to Manteca every single weekend from the time I was 10 to the time I was, 18 or something, like after working full weeks, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
No, totally.
getting me to practice and this, like I can't even. So it's yeah. So thank you for calling that out as well. Um What was it like? Let's see. What was it like growing up in the East Bay? What was it like growing up in the East Bay, and how did it shape who you are today?
Um, Growing up in the East Bay was a blessing. I I'm so blessed to have been born here in Oakland, in the Bay Area. Um, Given, especially given the circumstances of my parents and two sisters had fled Chile as political exiles in the 70s. And I was born a few years later in the Bay Area. So this is the only home, even though I identify as a Latina, Mapuche, like Oakland is the only place I've ever called home. Um, and I had a lot of, um, I had a lot of I think this is more in hindsight. I didn't realize this so much so when I was playing, but yes, I trained really hard to have the skills that I had. I had great coaches and teammates, and I think there's a little bit of kind of like an innate skill. Like I had an innate skill, and um, all of those factors combined kept helping me access spaces that weren't necessarily accessible to every Latina child of political refugees. Um, and so when I hear of the work that America Scores does and what Oakland Genesis is doing, that should be the norm, but it's not. The norm right now is that if you want to play in college, there's going to be some club team that you play for. And to play on that club team, you families are spending upwards from $10,000 a year on the travel, the gear, the hotel, the airplanes, um, coaching fees. So there's already that leaves a gap in access to who has just an extra 10. I don't now. Like if I had kids now, I don't know what we would do to play on those club teams. Um, and because every group has some level of scholarship, the only way that I was able to access all of these teams was being the scholarship recipient. And at that time, there wasn't 10 of me on a team, there was one. So on most of my teams, there was always I was either the only Latina or one of maybe two. And that was the norm. When I look back at my soccer pictures and look at the young people that were part of my daily life, our personal lived experiences were very different. Did I notice that as much when I was a kid? Sure, in probably some subconscious way, but I wasn't able to articulate it. And it really wasn't until leaving um, Berkeley, where I played Division One ball, that I kind of realized just how much of my own family's personal and like my personal identity got kind of like put to the side because and this is true for any group culture, there's a dominant culture. And in soccer in this country, the spaces I was a part of, it was a very homogeneous identity of like everyone kind of had the same, everybody's the same. And I put this in quotes because on a team, it's like we are one, nobody's different on a team. And I think that's just not the truth. We are so different, and that's what makes us beautiful and powerful and interesting. If we were all the same, how boring that would be. And like, even if our soccer styles were the same, we'd be such a boring team to watch. Um, and so, I think growing up in the Bay helped to give me one, just the political consciousness of, um, recognizing that my parents, as immigrants, as refugees that left a horrible, horrible situation in their country in Chile, and let it be known that the horror of their life was in large part due to American militarization and imperialism. Um, and so as I developed like language about all this and that perspective, it made me also realize that had my parents arrived to Ohio or Kentucky, my reality would have been so different. But instead, my parents arrived just to the Bay Area just after the start of the civil rights movement and all of the efforts of the Black Panther Party. So
Wow.
when people are like, wow, your parents worked so hard, like, yes, my parents worked hard. But also, the Black Panthers had worked so hard to set up systems and structures so that brown immigrants could arrive to the Bay Area and launch successful businesses and educate their children and be safe. And so growing up in the Bay Area, like that's who I come from. You know, this is, I'm loyal to this soil in a way that I'm not loyal to Chile, only because this is the only home I've ever known. This is where I learned to play. Um, and so, yeah, so that's kind of what it was like growing up in the Bay Area, playing soccer and growing up with this consciousness of seeing what's not well in the world, seeing what's sick in the world, and caring about it, wanting to make it better.
Wow. Thanks for sharing. I think so many of our youth and so many of us, come from first, second, maybe, generation immigrants, and finding our identity can be really challenging, right? Because you say like you're like this influence of my Chilean past, and but my roots are here. The only soil I've ever known is right here. So like those when people ask you like, oh, where are you from, or like, well, what are you, or something like that. You know what I mean, right? Like
I
those.
always just say I'm from Oakland, and they're like,
Yeah,
"No, but
yeah,
where are you
exactly.
from?" And I'm like, "Oh, Oakland."
Right. Because and that makes um I think, yeah, that's, I mean, it's not only is it true, but I think it's the most like it tells a closer part of like what who you actually are, because that's who you are. So yeah, thank you so much for sharing that. I really appreciate that, and I'm sure our listeners do too. Um, how is that? And I think I'll be jumping around here a little bit, but
Yeah.
I want to get into since you kind of brought it up in in the last answer here response, um, that soccer has always been a big part of your life, but it goes beyond, just playing the game, kicking the ball in the goal, right? Um, you've gotten your master's degree in cultural studies and sports and education from Berkeley, and I just want you're like the label that you have for yourself as a sports liberation educator, and I just want to ask, like, in your words, what does that mean?
Cool. Thanks for asking. I
Mm-hmm.
also, side note for anybody watching, I did my master's, and Leah's brother Yuri was
Yes.
finishing his master's when I was just getting started.
Yes.
Um,
More connections. Actually, I just want to say this before I forget, because I'm actually interested in this program. One, two. I played with Do you know Nadia Alami?
yeah, of course.
Yeah. So we played high school and club together growing up. She went to
Oh,
Berkeley. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. We were teammates. I've known her
Yeah.
since middle school.
You.
Um,
Yeah.
okay,
Anyway.
the question was, oh, sports liberation educator. What does that
Yes.
mean?
Yes.
So I I believe that there's a way to teach sports that also cultivates critical thinking so that we can think about our freedom more deeply. That's my short answer. What that means is, I feel in my experience of traditional sports, um, there's not a lot of critical thinking that's inherently taught through sport. It's like when coach says run, you run. When coach says sit, you sit. When they say jump, you jump. It's a lot of um, following orders. And I think there's a time and a place to kind of follow um, an instruction. And I think that we can go deeper, and that our athletes, who, if you watch any professional athlete, they're physically brilliant, right? They're so intelligent. And I think that sometimes as athletes, there's a divide between people who are capable to like speak politically, academically, thoughtfully, and to perform like at really high levels. It's kind of like two different spaces. And I feel like we can actually teach sports in a way that invites people to actually think more critically about justice and our bodies as a place that produces knowledge. That, you know, there's kind of that athlete jock mentality that like there's a stereotype that athletes aren't smart when in fact I think athletes are brilliant, and we just aren't always taught the words to put to what our bodies already know and our bodies are already doing. And you know, it's kind of like the power of being able to read and write. Like when you can put that down, no one can take that away from you. And so when we can do more than just be like performative with our bodies, when you back that with language and thought and intention, I think it can inform our ideas of freedom and fairness and justice. That's my longer version.
There was so much in that. I wanna touch on a couple things you said. Just about, I mean, it sounds like kind of democratizing a team,
Democratize.
democratizing. Thank you. The team. So it's not just the top down things. Like, okay, we're gonna come up with our team identity, our team agreements. What do we want this to look like? How is this going to work? Are we all going to work for each other? Or am I just going to work because that guy's telling me to? Like also having some, you know, self doing it because, yeah, some self motivation too,
Yep.
and keeping it fun. Be so kids. I don't know. I think that Scores does a really good job of this. It's like you could be the best naturally gifted soccer player in the world, but if it's not fun for you, like you're not, he's not going, they're not coming back. You know what I'm saying? So I think that's a huge part of it, and also like the connect. What I also wanted to bring up again was the connection that you mentioned, connection of the body, the an athlete's body to you know the creation of intellectual ideas and development of those ideas and peace and justice and all those things. I feel like, and I've been feeling this lately in this, you know, this crazy time, is how much being in your body and playing and being having that as almost a creative outlet as well. um it is helpful in so many other parts of your life. So working out and playing is not just, you know, frivolous activity. It can be, I don't know, really liberating. You
Yeah,
know.
I mean, if we look at this time right now, I'm sure we all know people who maybe weren't very physically active before the stay in place like this pandemic, who are now trying yoga classes and stretching and Zumba because it's it's revealing what's actually essential, you know? Like math and sciences are always essential, and yet the body has been relegated to this like other category where we first defund PE, we defund the sports, um, when in fact it's proving to be one of the things that's keeping many of us sane in this time of total discomfort. Like if you're not uncomfortable right now, you're not paying attention. Um, and if you are uncomfortable, like I absolutely invite you to think about stretching. And from there, who knows what you're going to move into.
Beautiful. um let's get into, let's see, we're at 2:40. Okay. um Futbolistas.
Yeah.
What is this documentary? How did
Uh,
it come to be?
so I started a program in Oakland with a group of students called the Futbolistas for Life. And we were a soccer club at a school that didn't have a field, we didn't have a team, there wasn't even a league to play in. And a group of young folks saw me juggling a ball, and I hadn't really connected that part of my identity with them yet about being an athlete because I was having my own issues. I had just finished Berkeley and was like, I wasn't able to piece together the way that soccer was relevant in my life at that time, in my early 20s. I'm now in my mid 30s, by the way. And over time, I started this club with kids, and we would just do like soccer lessons, like practices on cement and in the gym. And a couple years into it, we got an opportunity to write a grant and talk about the work that we were doing, because a lot of the work we were doing was really different kind of soccer programs, in the sense that a lot of it was discussion based, like weird activities where I put little messages on taped onto a soccer ball. And the reason we could do this creatively partially was because I didn't have to worry about training kids to play another group of kids. So the whole like 11v11, what position are you, was irrelevant. We didn't even have a field. And so we ended up writing the story of the way we use soccer to raise awareness about inequity in Oakland. And so was the kids researched for weeks some of those statistical benefits of playing on sports, like kids that play sports go to college, higher graduation rates, all these things that just weren't relevant to a group of children who love soccer who don't have a field. So not having a field already cut them off. And this is, I'm just sharing the way they analyzed the situation. It was like, cool, cool, cool. So you can play sports and have all these great things, but if we don't even have a soccer field, we can't join a team, we can't do this, can't do that, blah, blah, blah. List goes on and on. And so they started raising funds to build a soccer field on their school campus in the Fruitvale at Life Academy, 35th and Foothill. And we wrote a grant to the U.S. Soccer Foundation. We wrote the story of what they do in the circumstances that they kind of are leading this soccer program and the creative element of it. And we were awarded $100,000 to build the field and got additional funds because it takes much more than 100,000. Like that was a lot of money, but it takes so much more to build a field. And I think by 2012, 13, 11, 13, gosh, time is a blur. But they got the grant, the field was built. And so now at a school in the heart of the Fruitvale that has multiple middle schools and a high school, all of the grade levels now have organized teams. One of the former Futbolista students who was a young high school student when I was a teacher is now one of the coaches of the girls team at Life Academy. And so the program shifted in the sense that they don't do the same lessons we used to do, and most of that is because now they have a field and a team. And so yeah, it's kind of this wonderful success story that is also not replicable just everywhere for many reasons. You know, I don't want to like shine this great light and then squash it, but the reality is not everyone has a space to do that.
It's true. First of all, it's an incredible story. I just wanted to share in case I'm not sure if you're super familiar with what with America Scores, and then anyone who's listening who's not super duper familiar also, like, so our program is generally 1 day of soccer, 1 day of poetry in the fall, and then 1 day of soccer and 1 day of service learning projects in the spring. And what you just described, like, I mean, that project is something that, yeah, students who are not, don't have an incredible leader, who are not super self-motivated and driven, and have that probably what really helped was all those other little games that weren't even related to soccer to build that trust and that teamwork and be like, yeah, we're gonna do this for each other. Um, yeah, so it's an incredible connection. I'm really glad that you shared that story. And Uh,
Oh, so the
so
plug here, the plug is a woman made a woman, a dear friend of mine, June Stinson, made a documentary about our program, about the young people, about the stories that are very much about immigration, mental health, citizenship, and soccer is kind of the common thread. And you can look it up at futbolistas for the number four life.com, something like that. Oh, Futbolistas for Life film. We'll make sure to put a little link around it
yeah,
later. It's out there and it's accessible.
beautiful. Um, okay, let's talk a little bit about another facet of your soccer path. It's the Oakland Street Stylers.
Yay!
Yay!
One of my favorite parts of my whole soccer journey.
Yes, talk about it.
Oakland Street Stylers. Look us up, join us, become one of us, but with your own style, your own flavor. I I have one of my best friends who was on or maybe still be on right now, Arjuna. Um, we joined forces to start figuring out how to play soccer in a way that kind of fit with where we were in life, meaning um, physically. We were both dealing with different injuries that can't, like, I can't wear soccer cleats anymore because of a problem with my foot from college. Um, Arjuna had had surgery in his knee. He also was a former b-boy. He was a break dancer and a soccer player. I like dancing, but I wasn't a b-girl. But when you're from Oakland, everyone has like a little inner b-girl. So, I had one eye on the scene. Um, and Arjuna really inspired us and motivated us to get together and start just juggling, looking up different YouTubers that do soccer tricks, and putting it to music, but music that we really liked. Not so much like radio music, but more like really thoughtful, curated music, because Arjuna's also a DJ. So, man, I really lucked out in the best friend scene. My best friend's a
Seriously.
DJ, soccer player, break dancer, and really kind person. Um, and so we started freestyling. And we started looking up on Instagram other freestylers and meeting a community of who are now brothers in Santa Rosa, Nico and Daniel, who are pana players, street soccer players, and slowly kind of learning who does freestyle in the US, which is a really small group of people, like a really, really small group that I've met many of them over the past few years because it's so small. And freestyle, it's kind of like I always explain, it's like breakdancing meets soccer. All you need is a ball. That's one of the hashtags. It's like if you have a ball, you put on your music, you dance and move in a way that is comfortable to you. And I promise you, like me and Arjuna have such different ways of moving, and that we inspire each other. Like, ooh, what did you just do? I don't even know if my body can do that. And it's sometimes as you get older and you have more responsibilities, it's hard to organize with 22 people to go play at this time on a Sunday when you have children and parents and jobs. Um, and so freestyle is something that you can do anywhere and practice it over and over. And as I have evolved with freestyle, and a lot of my teachers are young women who are younger than me, um, Lisa Zimush, Melody Freestyle, Caitlin from Southern California. These are professional ballers. These young women can do things with the ball in their bodies that are just so entertaining and inspiring. And so these are the young people that I look up to who started freestyling when they were 10, 12, 13. And I'm like, man, if I had known when I was 8 years old or when I was six, just starting out, if I had known that freestyle was a thing, game over. Like, my trajectory could have been so different. But, even if I can't make a living off of freestyle, I know that freestyle has added more years to my life, because it's so joyful. It's so inviting. Anyone can do it, whether no matter your kind of physical ability. And there are times where you're injured and like I can't jump. And so I sit down on the ground with my ball and I learn to move and roll around on the ground with my ball. I think, Leah, one of the first times we really got together, was in excruciating pain and could barely walk, but was still like trying to do a little volley things. Um, and so freestyle is just a universal language of just pure joy. So any soccer player, I'm like, if you want to become an excellent soccer player, like better than you could have ever imagined, start freestyling. Because it's also something that no one can ever take that away from you. Doesn't matter if you don't make the team, if you can't find 20 friends to play with, you can always have freestyle.
It seems to me like creative and almost like you can probably get into like a rhythm or a zone like that's just like nothing else. Which is so healing, and like you said, if you don't need so many other people, yeah, if you can do it anywhere, it's yeah, really accessible.
I
Incredible.
think right now, while we're all kind of shut in place, this would be a great time to bust it out in your living room, in the parking lot near your house, on your front porch. You don't need a lot of space to freestyle, and there's plenty of YouTube videos and there's plenty
Yeah,
of Instagram videos, to inspire you while we actually can't really play with our friends in the same way.
absolutely. No, I want to practice some moves while we're in this situation. Come out and
Yeah.
support everybody. Thank you, Nico, but it's not so true. Nico says I have some sick freestyle moves. It's not that true.
It is.
And
It
Cody
is.
says Cody says Oakland Street Stylers and Bay Area Football Party has to happen. It's in the books for
Yes.
the day after Mr. Newsom says we can all do. Yeah, Street Stylers are so like I love the community around it. I love the accessibility around it. And I love yeah, the welcoming culture. It's like, okay, wherever you're at, like we're gonna give you snaps, we're gonna pump you up, like get in here, try some things.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, amazing. Um Also, oh my gosh, there's so many more questions. We have but so I just want to share real quick that at 3 we will literally get kicked off. So I'm gonna try to yeah. Um but let's see. Oh, I want to check in about because the last two interviews that we've done on this platform have been with Oakland Roots players. Shout out to Oakland Roots. And I know that you are involved a little bit with the Oakland Roots. Can you share a little bit of the ways in which you're involved with them?
Yeah, I love the Roots. I'm on their community advisory board with a large group of maybe 20 other individuals. Um, we're not necessarily a decision-making body, so we're not an advisory board that votes on things. We are kind of like, imagine community consultants that advise on like, hey, maybe think about partnering with this organization, or have you thought about this? Um, and so I'm a member of the advisory board, that community advisory board, and also I'm a member right now of a group of women who are helping advise the launch of the women's pro team that the Roots would like is going to launch in the
Mm,
next few years.
beautiful.
Um, yeah, which is really exciting. And, one of the things we'll be working on right now is helping them come up with a name, because for trademark and copyright reasons, something like that, it can't have the same name as the Oakland
Mm,
Roots.
mm.
Um, we'll be meeting actually this Wednesday to talk about, yeah, bringing women's pro soccer to Oakland, which is a dream for so many young sisters, and I'm really fortunate to be at the table and happy that the Roots is thinking about that.
I mean, you talk about back when you were playing with the Breeze, you're like shouting out the folks that stuck with that. Like you're a huge part of the reason that this is happening in Oakland. So yeah, shout out to you. It is a dream come true for so many here in the Bay. So that's incredible. And I know it seems like the Roots do a lot of really good things. To even have a 20-person, community advisory board in the first place is a big step in the right direction. And yeah, they want to do the right. It seems like they want to do the right thing, which is especially in women's soccer, pro soccer is gosh so rare. So shout out to the
Totally.
Roots.
Yeah.
Um, Sorry, did you want to say anything else before on that before
No,
I
no, stay tuned on
keep
that.
from
And as you want to get involved, like let the Roots know they're really welcoming to input.
amazing. Um, we're at 2:55. I guess I want to ask one more really good question. Um, I've talked about some of that. I guess yeah, let's talk about life in these strange times a little bit. What kind of things are you doing to stay happy and healthy and engaged and positive during these strange times?
That's a great question. Um, I feel like just in the past few days, there's been a really deep turn inward. Like we've already been isolated, so there's kind of an inward nature to this time in general. Um, but I've been reflecting a lot on the idea of love. And I think sometimes I've erred in thinking that love is like I give you something, or you give me your time, or you give me this, and then I give you this. And one of the things that's been really revealing to me during this time is that, especially when we can't really give to each other, that doesn't mean that we don't love each other. And thinking about how important it is for us to be love and to like really love yourself. And if you can really do that, you're doing a favor to every person in the world. Because when you really love yourself, people can tell, like, you give off a good feeling. And you ever meet someone and you're like, I don't really know, they didn't even have to say anything, and you just got a yucky vibe. A lot of that comes from not loving yourself and like enjoying your own company. Um, so I've just really been thinking about what would it look like for people to be love, and like what would that, yeah, how would people feel, if especially when we can't give hugs and all these things that we think of as love, but yeah.
Yeah, I don't even know if we can say anything else after that. Right? Like, what do you follow up to like to be love, y'all? Like embodying love. You don't need obviously so obvious I've been thinking a little bit about yeah, sure, about ways to be fulfilled and stay happy and stay engaged and stuff like that. And yeah, you're right that what what do I get? What do you give? Like that transactional thing is a big part of it, but I think or is can be a part of it or was a part of it, but who knows what it'll look like in the future. And like I do still think that giving and figuring out ways to give is still an incredible way to feel good in these times. But
Mm-hmm.
yes, I honestly wish I didn't say anything after. Just be love, y'all.
No, it's true. Give when you can. But yeah, be loved. Thank you so much to everybody who joined in, stopped in. Leah, thank you for this. This was such a highlight of my week. Thank
Incredible. I
you.
know I've been looking forward to this. Thank you so much for all that you do, for taking the time and carry on. And I'm gonna be thinking about being loved for the rest of who knows how long.
Mm, thank you. All right,
Take care,
everybody.
everybody. Ciao.
Bye.
Bye.